Hello and welcome back to the World Championship in Through the Ages. The second last game of the stage is ahead of us, and it is a two-player game against Angor. With the results that you already have knowledge about, it is now clear that I will be able to win this group, and it is also clear that Angor won't be able to make it to the next stage, so this game now doesn't make a big difference, but it wasn't clear for the most parts of this game. It was even looking like, at some points, like Angor might be the biggest contender in the group. And also this game of course counts for the clicker rating, and after my relatively nice last international championship season, maybe I could have a shot at the first spot in the clicker rating, something I didn't reach so far, and with that of course I still have a lot of motivation to give my best to win this game. Alright, and now without further ado, we are going to take a look at the game, and first of all, of course, at the leaders and wonders. And as always in a two-player game, we're taking a look first at how the culture leader situation is, and we can see that there is Bach, Darwin, and Gaudy, so there are definitely some culture leaders, but there's no Shakespeare, which is important. There's also the Hollywood in age 3, Marlene Dietrich and Chaplin, but there's no Gandhi to hide behind, but in general there is definitely a bit of culture synergy in the game, which then means that the Acropolis could potentially be quite strong, but it isn't on the row yet. Then apart from that, we also have some science leaders or lab leaders with Sid Meier, Einstein, Steve Jobs, and Marie Curie. There's also the space flight, the Red Cross is there as well. The Suez Canal is there, but no James Cook. There is also Ocean Liner Service. Maria is a strong combination. James Watt is maybe not that strong in a two-player game. And then we have Robespierre. In H1 we have the Silk Road, we also have St. Peter's Basilica and Machu Picchu, that could be nice together with Michelangelo. There's no military action leader in H1, there's Columbus, maybe together with the Suez Canal, as well as Isabella and Eleanor could also work nicely with that, and then we have Nostradamus and Leonardo. Angor is in the first position, and he starts with taking Boudica, and she is definitely quite a fine leader. He takes the risks here that I maybe could take Sun Tzu to then maybe force him to use the military resource of Boudica earlier than he maybe would like to. And I definitely considered taking Sun Tzu here, but at the end I still go with Moses. It's of course a little bit annoying if Angor has to build a warrior first, but in case he goes for the Roman roads, and if he goes for the Roman roads, might depend maybe on whether the Acropolis is in the row or not, but maybe even if it is in the row, he might go for the Roman roads, and then he has a strong economical wonder, and with that it's maybe not that bad to delay the second lab in order to build a wonder first, and then you can put the free population into warriors instead, and then you just have a free warrior. Maybe you don't need the warrior if it will turn out to be a very peaceful game, but I still think it could be fine, and I don't want to take Sun Tzu just as a counter for Boudica. Of course, I could still consider him. There's the Suez Canal for a bit of colonization synergy, there's Columbus, but there's no Jan Žižka, there's no Genghis Khan, and at the end I just didn't want to go for Sun Tzu at the end. Also, one problem is that if I take Sun Tzu, I ideally want to take the urban growth, but if I do this, and if there's no Acropolis in the row, and if Angor then goes for Rome roads, the Colosseum would stay on two civil actions. Colosseum is not a wonder that I like a lot in two-player games, but with no military action leaders being H1, and with maybe no Acropolis being in the row, also no early Universitas being available, I might be willing to take the Colosseum, but if I take Sun Tzu urban growth, then it might stay on two civil actions. I could of course take Sun Tzu cultural heritage, but then I probably have a worse yellow card to work with, and Moses is just a solid leader, will give me some guaranteed value, and so at the end I went for Moses urban growth, and with Moses not being a discard spot, now it is guaranteed for me that I will get a Colosseum for one civil action at the next turn, unless of course Angor will take it away. I also consider taking Moses cultural heritage, because then I could make the chances even bigger that Acropolis will come out of the deck. And then if it very likely stays in three civil actions, Angor's maybe not willing to take it, then I could take it for two civil actions at the next turn. Or maybe if Angor commits to the Rome roads, maybe even for cheaper later on. So that could maybe be interesting. On the other hand, I also risk, if I take another card, that the Acropolis could fall down even to two civil actions, and then Angor could maybe relatively easily grab it, elect Boudica, build a mine, grab Acropolis, and the urban growth is probably just a better yellow card. So at the end, I didn't want to take the cultural heritage just because of that reason. And I also didn't want to commit to Rome roads, with there potentially still being the Acropolis around, but there's no Acropolis, only the Hanging Gardens is revealed. Angor will go for Boudica, and then builds the mine, increases his population, and takes the Rome roads. Now it's my turn. I will go for Moses. I build the lab first. Of course, I could also just start with the mine. There is even a printing press coming down the road, but there are some leaders that work nicely with printing presses, like Darwin and Godi, but there's no Shakespeare, so maybe the biggest printing press leader isn't available. And no, so at the end I still started with building the lab first, just getting a bit of additional science going. Maybe if the iron should still be available, which is maybe not that likely, but maybe possible, then that could allow me to go for iron one turn earlier. Maybe there will also be a second copy revealed, and also with the additional population from Moses, maybe with building the second lab, I still don't rule it out completely to go for printing presses, so I could maybe have the population to still go for printing presses at some point. And so I went for the lab first. Also, one reason was that I will actually not take an HA wonder this turn. I will increase my population and then I will just take this rich land. I think it could definitely be fine to take the Colosseum. No, it's a fine wonder. It has a little bit of synergy with St. Peter's Basilica, and there are not that many military action leaders in the game, so I think it definitely could be considered and it wouldn't be bad. But I also just don't like it that much, and the rich land I can use very nicely on the mine and the next turn, and I thought that either printing press or iron will be available for me, and with that I hopefully will have something that I can invest my resource into. The next turn I could also still make the decision to go for the Hanging Gardens, which is a nice combination with Moses. It also produces one culture, which makes maybe a bit of a difference in a two-player game, and so I could also still go for that, or maybe I find something nice to invest my resource into, and then I can just wait to go for an H1 government and H1 wonder, or who knows, maybe even just upgrade my production and then leave myself open to grab an H2 wonder very cheaply. And so at the end I just skipped the Colosseum and took the rich land. I draw two events, Call to Arms and Immigration. Angor builds two stages of the Roman roads, and then he just takes the iron. He took the science from Boudica. The next turn he can potentially already start going for iron, but he can of course also maybe just finish the Roman roads. Now it's my turn, and I think there is quite a strong leader on the row. I have already two events drawn. One of them, the Call to Arms, even works quite nicely with Nostradamus. I think Nostradamus is quite strong in two-player games. Just makes it even easier to not be the weakest, and then the culture that he produces is maybe also more important in two-player games than in 3 and 4-player games. Of course, in 3 and 4-player games you maybe gain more knowledge, because more of your the bigger part of the events is seeded by your opponents, but the knowledge can still be nice. And Moses, while being a fine leader, I can now increase my population one more time with him, and then he at least has given me 2 food in a very short time, and I can switch to Nostradamus. I think that's not too bad. I could of course wait for one of the other leaders, but I think they are not the strongest ones available. I mean, Leonardo can potentially be strong. If I draw a nice colony, Columbus could be nice, but I think just getting Nostradamus now is quite nice. There has been no event seeded yet, so I will have full knowledge about the next event deck, which is also nice. Now I still have civil action left. I could of course just build my mine, but as you can see, the second copy of iron is coming down the row, and thanks to building the lab first, I will actually have 5 science at the next turn, and thanks to having this rich land in hand, I will also have enough resource to build an iron mine directly. So I think it's better to wait with building the mine, and then I can just save a civil action at the next turn. The question of course is then, what card do I want to take? I could still consider going for the Hanging Gardens, but now that I will get the iron at the next turn, I have something to invest my resource into, and then I just made a decision that I rather want to go for an H1 or maybe even an H2 wonder then, once I have my production upgraded. So I didn't really want to go for the Hanging Gardens. It could still be fine, but I rather wanted to wait for an H1 wonder. I could also think about just going for the frugality, just a little bit of value, but at the end I actually just took the printing press in hand, because no, maybe I can find a way to invest my resource into that. Who knows, maybe I will go for Anthony Godi or Darwin, maybe Bach. I won't be able to go for Bach, and then it could be nice to have it in hand just to have more options available later on. Angor this turn will finish the Roman roads, increase his population, and takes the urban growth. With that card he will be able to build a second lab at the next turn, and if he wants to, he can maybe also go for an iron upgrade already in addition to that. Now that I have Nostradamus, I start seeding and push the Call to Arms into the deck. And the Development of Religion is revealed. We both have a free population that we can use to put it into religion. And in this turn, I have the science and resource to go for iron, and so I think it's also best to just start upgrading immediately, develop the iron. I build one mine directly, I have one civil action left, but there are not the most cards that I can take. Don't want to take the Taj Mahal, I rather want to wait for another wonder. The masonry maybe could be interesting, especially if I should end up building some wonders, but at the moment I don't really have the science for it, and so I just increased my population with my last civil action. I keep the event and the fighting band tactic. I draw the uncertain borders now and the second fighting band tactic. Angor builds the second lab this turn, also goes for an iron upgrade, and with the last civil action grabs the breakthrough for 2 science. He also reveals the medieval army tactic. I guess he again took the science. Yes, I think that makes a lot of sense. Code of laws, I let this card stay on 3 civil actions, meaning that now I have the chance to maybe take it for 2 if I want to. First of all, I see the uncertain borders. Of course, at the moment, it's not clear yet who will have the strength lead, but with Nostradamus I just have an advantage, and I was hoping that at least I hopefully will manage that I am not the weakest, and so maybe it's just that Angor is the strongest, but also the weakest, and then nothing happens, but I maybe also have a shot at winning the uncertain borders, and so I was willing to cede it. The development of politics is revealed, giving me some colonies and also the reign of terror. This turn I have enough resource to just go for one more iron upgrade, which should be nice. And then I was willing to take cultural heritage and also the code of laws. I think in 2-player games, civil action denial can definitely be a thing. And because of that, the code of laws can just be quite an important technology, just allowing yourself to get an additional civil action going for certain, especially in a game where no one has the pyramids and also no forbidden city is available. I think there's also no Kremlin available, so very few ways to get more civil actions. So I think the code of laws is just a very important card, even though we are at the moment both relatively low on science, but with the cultural heritage I potentially even have the option to already go for the code of laws at the next turn if I want to, so yeah, I just wanted to have this card. I then keep the Reign of Terror and also the Fighting Band tactic. I draw now also the Medieval Army tactic and a Colonization card. Angor goes for 2 more upgrades to his mines, is now already at 7 resource production together with the Rome Road, so that's quite a lot. He's then willing to take the irrigation, that is quite an important card to have. Interestingly, he also takes the frugality. He has already a lot of food saved up and not the most civil actions, so maybe it could have been also an idea to just increase population, but then he would have gotten into consumption. The frugality is basically giving him 3 food, and with that maybe he was willing to have potentially some corruption issues the next turn if he then at least is guaranteed to get a lot of population out. This turn I seed the Reign of Terror into the deck. So far I'm the only one who has seeded anything, and all of the events so far have been strength events. The development of civil life is revealed. I will use it to increase my population. I could potentially develop the Code of Laws this turn with the cultural heritage and then get my 5th civil action going, maybe then grabbing some cards. But if I should do this, I would just be very low on science. I couldn't really invest into a military technology, and the problem is I have seeded a lot of strength events, so I didn't really like that too much. Maybe Angor then finds a nice way to get stronger. And so instead I made the decision to rather invest into science production. I go for the alchemy. I have just enough science already available to develop it, and then I can go for 2 upgrades immediately. I was willing to miss out on some interesting cards for that. Engineering Genius is always nice to get for 1 civil action. There are also 2 military techs. Knights could be nice to have with the medieval army tactic. Also I leave the knights now for Angor, who also has a medieval army tactic. So those are some interesting cards. On the other hand, it just works very, very nicely to get both upgrades in now, because now I have 4 science available. I was very much hoping that the swordsman won't be taken away. And I also have this fighting band tactic in hand that I can go for. And then with 4 science I could potentially just develop the swordsman already the next turn in case I need the strength. And then thanks to the cultural heritage I could still go for Code of Laws in 2 turns. Or if I think that I don't really need the strength, then I could also, thanks to the cultural heritage, already develop the Code of Laws already at the next turn and then still go for swordsman in 2 turns. Or maybe if there's still a little bit of science from the developments revealed, maybe also for knights, but I think at this point I made a decision that I will maybe just go for swordsman. Maybe I even don't need to invest anything into the military, depending on how much Angor is willing to invest. So I I was willing to get those alchemies going, and I thought it might just be quite helpful. Then at the next turn I can get an additional civil action, I can get my military technology going, and then I already have science production set up, and that I think will make it a lot easier for me to maybe go for a government form in H2. I keep both tactics in hand as an option, so far I don't have any knowledge about colonies. With Nostradamus I was hoping that I will not be in danger of any aggressions. Angor this turn uses the development of civil life to increase his population, and interestingly he is even willing to build a 4th mine, is now at 9 resource production, already in H1, so that is definitely quite a lot. But with the frugality he has a lot of population, he will now also get the irrigation going, does an upgrade this turn already, will take the knights, isn't willing to go for Leonardo, is maybe hoping to go for one of the other leaders, maybe he has a nice colony for Columbus. And and then he's willing to take the knights because he has this medieval army tactic lying around, so that should be a nice option for him. I was willing to see the barbarians here. Of course it's annoying because I have the most culture, so it doesn't really won't give me any benefit. It can only potentially hurt me, but I just wanted to push the deck forward. And the thing is also there are a lot of strength events, only strength events actually, in the next deck, so I really want to try my best to not be the weakest anyway. So I think that doesn't really change us now with that event, and I just can push, get additional culture from Nostradamus. And event that is revealed is the development of crafts. Then this turn I said I could potentially go for swordsman, and I will also take the swordsman, but I don't want to invest into them. Then Angor would get 2 resource for the military. I mean, he has enough resource maybe anyway, so maybe he wants to get the science anyway, maybe it would even be annoying for him, but who knows, maybe the 2 resource could still be somewhat nice for him. So and at the moment the most events that are coming only require to not be the weakest, call to arms, reign of terror, barbarians, only the uncertain borders. For that it would be nice to be the strongest, so at the moment I was not willing to invest into military yet, and rather wanted to make sure that I get another civil action going already this turn. I developed a code of laws, I take the irrigation, it's just an important technology to have in 2-player games, and also I was looking at this Machu Picchu coming down the road. I thought it could be an interesting wonder for me to go for at the next turn, to really get a very nice production going. Also I let it stay on 2 civil actions for Angor, so it's really quite costly for him to take it. So I thought that might be nice, and then of course having the irrigation is also quite important for that. And then with my last civil action I will just upgrade my last mine, going up to 6 resource production. I still have enough resource to potentially just take and finish Machu Picchu at the next turn, and so I have a nice economy going. Also thanks to Nostradamus I already have a little bit of a culture lead, so overall I was quite happy about my position, also being at 5 civil actions now. Hopefully Nostradamus will help me with those strength events, so I was quite happy with my position now going into H2. I still keep both of those tactics. Sadly I don't draw any event. I was a little bit unhappy about it, because it could be nice to maybe push some of those strength events out. I think especially the call to arms could potentially be quite hurtful for Angor, with only having 4 civil actions and also lots of production. And Angor surprised me a little bit. He just takes the St. Peter's Basilica for very, very expensive. So he really wants to have this wonder. Maybe he didn't have the nicest alternatives, but I mean he could always use the frugality for 2 new population, get some irrigation upgrades going or some stuff, get a new leader going. Now he will lose one, but maybe he will just go for Columbus or Eleanor at the next turn as a transitional leader. And maybe you could still get the St. Peter's Basilica the next turn, but who knows, maybe he just wants to also already finish it at the next turn to get, then again maybe you have the option to go for an H2 wonder, because there are quite some strong ones that he also is blocking himself from at the moment. But of course, in a 2-player game, with maybe going for some culture leaders, with maybe going for Hollywood at the end, the St. Peter's Basilica is quite nice. Then you don't need a happy face solution, you can just go maybe for some operas, and that will be enough as a happy face solution. So it's definitely a very strong wonder, and maybe Angor was just afraid that I will go for the St. Peter's Basilica. And if both of those wonders, Machu Picchu and St. Peter's Basilica, would be available for me, I definitely would consider it. Maybe I would still go for the Machu Picchu, because it is available cheaper for me, and it also is quite nice to get, but it could also be that I maybe at the end would go for the St. Peter's Basilica, and maybe Angor really wanted to have that wonder for himself, and now he is willing to pay for it. He builds a warrior, so I would not be, I would not have a chance to win the uncertain borders, but the order strength events could maybe be nice to be revealed. Sadly, I don't have the chance to push this turn. H2 will also start, Angor loses Boudica, and with only the Machu Picchu being left now, I was willing to just take and finish that this turn, giving me another boost in production, making sure that the irrigation will give me a big boost in food production. And then with the last civil action, I could potentially think about developing the irrigation. I will want to develop it at some point anyway, but maybe I also want to leave myself open to have the option to go for an H2 government farm before I go for the irrigation. I could potentially delay this, and so at the end I was willing to grab the reserves. It's maybe really not an important card with getting the Machu Picchu. I will have enough food and resource hopefully available. But it could also be a bit bad when the irrigation delays the government form, and so at the end I was willing to take the reserves. Maybe it could also just be fine to develop the irrigation already. With only taking cards from the discard spot, I make sure that the strategy stays in 3 civil actions, and I don't really think Angor has the chance to grab that very nicely this turn. He also maybe still wants to go for one of those leaders, so I don't also think there's no need to take it this turn for me, the strategy. And yeah. And then I can at the next turn either maybe go for irrigation anyway, or maybe I can hope to get a government form. This turn I also draw some events again, the international negotiations and the historic territory. Angor does indeed take Columbus, probably has a nice colony available, and then he just finishes the St. Peter's Basilica, has this wonder finished, has no unhappy workers, and has just also a bit more of cultural production going. This turn I see the international negotiations and the Reign of Terror is revealed. I was really hoping to maybe get a call to arms. I mean, of course, that would be quite unfortunate for Angor, but I think in this situation it could really be a disaster to maybe get hit by that. But Angor is a bit in a tough spot anyway. There's actually Bach in the row, who is of course quite a strong leader, and I think it would be very nice to get him and then just get one of the 2 copies of operas and convert this very nice Machu Picchu production into a big culture lead, ideally, especially with already having a bit of a culture lead. So I really wanted to get Bach. The question is it necessary to take him for 3 civil actions already this turn? And I will make sure to let him stay in 3 civil actions this turn, and with that I think it's not really necessary to take him, because I think it would just be too expensive for Angor to take him. He has a full hand, so in order to even have a chance to grab him, he needs to make space in his hand with his first civil action, and then spend all of his other civil actions just to take Bach. There are some 2 copies of Scientific Method that he maybe wants to have, maybe he wants to have the strategy, so he already has some difficulties maybe getting the stuff that he wants to have, and I think grabbing Bach for 3 is just not a nice option, and maybe I then can just get Bach for cheaper the next turn. However, when I don't want to take Bach for 3, then I kinda have to find something that I want to do, and this turn I then was willing to go for the irrigation. Maybe I should have already committed to it at a turn before, because now I won't be open to a government form at the next turn, but if I keep the irrigation in hand, have a lot of cards in my hand, and maybe I could have also just taken Bach for 3 civil actions, and maybe just playing reserves for food, increasing my population or something like this, in order to have the science to go for a government form. But it's maybe also not bad to get a lot of food production going, then I will have a lot of population, and with that I can maybe easily afford building a bunch of operas at some point with Bach, and who knows, maybe there is also just no government form available at the next turn. And now, to get out of corruption, I will go for 2 upgrades. I have no 2 civil actions left. I think the breakthrough, also the strategy, would both be interesting cards to take, but I really just wanted to let Bach stay on 3 civil actions, so I was willing to not take those. And the strategy, I thought maybe I still have a shot to get it the next turn, because Angor maybe he really wants to have the Scientific Method, maybe also some other stuff, maybe also the breakthrough, so maybe he will take it, but there are some other interesting alternatives for him, and so I thought I could maybe even get it for 1 civil action at the next turn, and I also really didn't want to take any of those cards for 1 civil action. Don't want to have the Knights, the Cavalrymen I maybe want to have, but I just said want to let Bach stay on 3 civil actions, and so I at the end just played the reserves for food, increased my population, just spending 2 civil actions on something that I want to do at some point anyway, so that I have more freedom at the following turns, and then at the next turn I was hoping to maybe get Bach. And no, and then I hopefully will just be able to convert this nice economy into a lot of culture with Bach. Also, I actually was willing to build a warrior and revealed a fighting band tactic here. It's maybe a bit of an interesting decision, maybe it's not really necessary. But if Angor should now not increase in strength, then I can maybe seed the historic territory into the deck at the next turn and have a chance at even winning the uncertain borders, which could be quite nice. And also Angor, maybe he will go for knights, it could potentially be. And then he could get stronger, and now, with already having spent some military actions, maybe it's more easily possible for me to even further increase my strength in case I want to fight for those strength events. So I think those were the two reasons why I at the end was willing to build this warrior and reveal the fighting band tactic. I have an event that I can seed with Nostradamus, and now I have a chance to maybe win the uncertain borders. And also I thought maybe Angor will increase his strength, so maybe if he goes up to 5 strength I could still have maybe the chance to push at the next turn. And so I was willing to build this unit and reveal the tactic, even though I don't get any draws now. Angor will develop the knights, with that he makes space in his hand, increases his population one time, builds the knight, uses the frugality, builds another knight, goes up to 7 strength, so now I would be the weakest after my turn, and then with this last civil action he's just grabbing the scientific method, so he's not grabbing the strategy and is also not grabbing Bach, just grabbing the scientific method, and no, I think that's definitely a strong card for him. He somehow needs to invest his resources, and then getting a lot of science production going might be one nice way to do it. Now it's my turn, I definitely don't want to push, and this turn was actually a bit of a tough turn to figure out. There's of course Bach available for 2 civil actions, a leader that I really would like to have, but there's also the Republic available for 3 civil actions, and I think it could also be very important to get a government form going, otherwise there's maybe the danger that it will be denied, and Angor also could just go for the Republic if I don't take it. I could potentially take Republic and Bach, then I would have Corruption, which is maybe not the biggest deal, but what is maybe a big deal is that I then won't be able to take the strategy, and that is maybe a bit problematic. Then I would have no way to get another military action, and it could potentially get a bit dangerous. I still considered it, I get both of the things that I really want, I get Bach and I get the Republic, but another issue is that I am the weakest still, and I can, if I just take Bach and Republic, I can only build a warrior, but then and that would still not really be enough to not be the weakest in Angor's turn. I might start losing the uncertain borders, the reign of terror, the barbarians. There's just a lot of bad stuff coming, and with only having also 2 military actions, if I want to increase my strength, I won't draw any cards. So even though I then have my government form, I will be able to go for a lot of civil actions, I will be able to get Bach. Maybe it will still work out relatively nicely, but I felt like stuff could get a little bit dangerous. And yeah, so at the end I didn't go for just Bach and Republic, and I made a decision that I want to have the strategy, because that allows me and gives me a nice way to get stronger with developing it, giving me also more draws immediately, making sure that I can prepare myself for the events. The question is now, of course, do I want to take the Republic or do I maybe want to take Bach? I could maybe just take the Republic, maybe even develop the strategy, but then if I develop the strategy, I don't have the most science left. I could then maybe try to go for a revolution as soon as possible, but then at the next turn, if I don't go for Bach, I maybe want to go for Antoni Gaudi to still have a chance to get a culture leader going, because at the moment I don't have any tactic. I just don't want to go into a military direction, and I think then Antoni Gaudi would just maybe be the best leader to get. So I think that could be an idea, but maybe also would also not really be ideal, but maybe it could be an idea. But getting Antoni Gaudi the next turn is maybe also just not as strong as Bach. And yeah, so at the end I was actually willing to not take the Republic, something I was not too certain about. There's a bit of a tough turn, but I went for Bach, just making sure that I get Bach. The Republic very, very likely will now be taken away, but the thing is there is still a constitutional monarchy, and also with me developing the strategy now, as said, it is not that easy for me to go for a government form anyway. And while Angor can of course go for the Republic, he then will be stuck on 2 military actions. unless he maybe gets Robespierre or the autonomous territory. So then he can't really go for a lot of military options, and then maybe with already having a culture lead with getting Bach, I'm maybe in a relatively comfortable position. Of course, I might miss out on Conmon, and then I could be stuck on urban building limit of 2. Also on my current amount of civil military actions, but that is actually not too bad. 5 and 4, I think that's something to work with. But I can only build 2 operas, but to be honest, the point where it is a problem that I can only build 2 operas is still some turns in the future. Maybe it is already H3, then maybe I can at this point already hope to get an H3 government, and I can also maybe just hope to get a constitutional monarchy. So I was at the end willing to not take the Republic. I think a lot of different ideas could turn out to be right. Maybe it can all really backfire to not take a government form, but may at least I have Bach, I have the strategy, I'm prepared for the events, I start drawing some more cards, and at the end it just felt best for me. And also like this, I can get out of corruption, which is maybe not the biggest reason with having that much production, but it's still a reason. So no, I'm not 7 strength. If Angor doesn't increase his strength, I could even still have a chance to win the uncertain borders. I do draw some events. I don't elect Bach yet. Nostradamus at the moment still giving me more value. And so you can see the constitutional monarchy is on the roll now. And the big question is, of course, now will Angor deny it after going for the Republic? He has 4 civil actions left, so he could maybe take it, and then he could still do one other thing with the last civil action. And he's actually not going for the Conmon. And again, he goes for a little bit of a surprising move. He just goes for the Eiffel Tower, which definitely makes some sense, because he has a lot of resource production. It also synergizes with the St. Peter's Basilica. Now he should have his happy faces covered for the rest of the game. He misses out on Antoni Gaudi, so he doesn't get a culture leader, but at least he gets a lot of culture from the Eiffel Tower, and that maybe makes up for it. But it's also a bit expensive. He doesn't deny the government form. The reason why he maybe doesn't deny it is that now I'm relatively low in science, and maybe he thought I can't easily get into the government form anyway, and with that maybe he doesn't want to deny it for 3 civil actions, which would be somewhat costly. And no, and so he leaves it to me, but I was still very happy to get it. I can maybe set up a revolution or something, and then I just have the knowledge that I will get a government form going. So I think it could be considered to deny it in Angor's position, but he at the end rather wants to have the Eiffel Tower. He also has 6 science at the next turn, so instead of building the Eiffel Tower, he could potentially also start going for scientific methods. He still didn't elect Columbus, interestingly, but maybe just didn't find a civil action to do that yet. This turn I cede. I think I ceded a historic territory, because at the moment I could use some happy faces, while Angor with the Eiffel Tower doesn't use the happy faces, would maybe only take the colony for the culture. So now I cede, and the call to arms is revealed. That is now not as annoying maybe for Angor, but of course still not great to lose 2 civil actions. He can do a lot of stuff with all of his resources, could even finish Eiffel Tower and go for 2 upgrades to scientific method, so that really shows you how many resources he actually has. But now he is missing the civil actions to do this, so that could still be quite annoying for him. I then of course take the constitutional monarchy, and I thought it could be very nice to already do a revolution at the next turn. And yeah, so I thought about some different turns. Maybe I can just increase my population, but then I can't do that much else on my civilization anyway. I can maybe take the cannons, but what else do I want to do? I can maybe elect Bach already to make space in my hand, but I didn't really like the options too much that I have available for that I can do in my civilization to use my civil actions apart from increasing my population. And increasing my population is something that I will do. And I kind of wanted to have the option to do a revolution at the next turn. But the problem is, 1 copy of opera is in a row. If the next one is revealed, then with doing the revolution, there's the danger that I can't do the revolution. With not that many cards left, it's actually not that unlikely that this might happen. So then I have to delay the revolution. Maybe that's not too bad. Maybe with my science I can still go for it at some point peacefully. But still, if I go for it peacefully, then it might take a while until I also can go for the operas. I kind of wanted to do the revolution, and it might be better to do the revolution as early as possible. And to still have the option, or to have the option to do the revolution, I was actually willing to, after building a warrior to be prepared for the uncertain borders, I was actually willing to just take this opera for 3 civil actions. This is of course quite costly. There would be another copy. There's not really a need to take it, but the reason why I want to have it is that now I can do Revolution at the next turn, and I have Bach and Opera in hand. So after the Revolution I can just start spamming out a lot of operas, and I thought that hopefully then I will have quite a nice position. Of course, one thing is there's also the copy of Rifleman. I don't have any military tech yet. I mean, apart from Swordsman, but maybe the age could already end in 2 turns after my Revolution if I should do it at the next turn. And no, so I might miss out on Rifleman, but the thing is, Angor is in Republic and at the moment doesn't have any way to get more military actions going. So there is not really any big danger, I would say. Maybe he get military theory in H3, but I also have quite some time to maybe get some H3 units going. So I thought it could maybe be fine to miss out on the Rifleman. Also, maybe Angor will take the Rifleman away. And if the Riflemen are still available, it's also a possibility to then maybe not do the Revolution. Maybe I can build 1 or even 2 operas first, and then do the Revolution in 2 turns. That could also be in order, but I at least wanted to have the option to do a Revolution at the next turn, especially if the Rifleman should be taken away. Maybe it could just be nice to get the Revolution as early as possible, even if it costs me 4 corruption, and for that I wanted to have the opera already in hand. I get some draws in, 2 colonization card, it might be nice. I have just needed a historic territory, also have the vast territory in hand. Angor finishes the Eiffel Tower immediately, goes for 1 food upgrade and elects Columbus. If he doesn't elect him now, there's the danger that he doesn't get another chance to use him for this colonization bonus. So no, he basically has to elect him now, and with that he doesn't go for this copy of Rifleman. So at the next turn I maybe can still think about taking it if I don't want to do the Revolution. First of all, I see it again with Nostradamus, another territory. I have now 2 colonization cards drawn. The yellow tokens could also be quite helpful for me, and also I have more military actions than Angor, so I can also keep more cards in hand. And the barbarians are revealed, so sadly no uncertain borders yet, but at least that event is out. It could also be potentially hurt me, and this turn I was willing to elect Bach and then also go for the opera. So I don't go for the Revolution. One big reason is that I actually can now maybe even go for it peacefully the next turn, thanks to the Revolutionary idea that is on the row. And so I developed the opera, I built 1, increasing my culture reduction, at least only having 2 corruption, and then with my last 3 civil actions I take the Revolutionary idea and the Rifleman. As said, maybe it's even not that important to have the Rifleman, because Angor at the moment can't really push any military, but it's also not bad to have it. Maybe he still finds a way if he maybe gets an early military theory, and then it could be quite bad to not have it available. I have all of those warriors, and also I take it away from Angor, so now that it's available for 1 civil action, and now that I can go for the Conmon peacefully even at the next turn, I just thought that is now the better order, getting my culture reduction going, having the Revolutionary idea to go for Conmon at the next turn, then just building more operas ideally, and then also having the option to just go for Rifleman at one point, especially also with the international negotiations coming. I then draw some cards and even another colonization card, which is nice. Angor uses Columbus, but he sadly has only an H1 colony that he kept in hand. I mean, it's still a relatively nice one, but with having being in H2 for a while, maybe it could have been nice for him to draw an H2 colony, but he also maybe didn't have that many draws with only being in 2 military actions. This turn he will go for the scientific methods, increasing his science production. One problem for him is that he was so occupied with doing a lot of stuff that he missed out on most of the leaders. Now there's only Robespierre left, who is maybe not that great of a leader for him. I mean, at least he gives him additional military actions, which is in his situation actually quite nice maybe, but maybe still not really ideal. No, but who knows, maybe the military action will be nice for him, and maybe he can also use him to go for an H3 government farm. He also is even willing to build an additional farm, goes for an upgrade, gets a lot of food production going, takes the breakthrough, and then also the engineering genius. Now it's my turn. I know that the uncertain borders are on top, so I was willing to cede. I ceded a Cold War. Maybe it's a bit risky. Ideally I would just want to go for Bach and build as many operas as possible, but I thought I maybe have a chance to do this and still make sure that I'm the strongest, and a Cold War could really help me with the science. and I just wanted to push. I don't want to push terrorism. International agreement has also some potential, but maybe to help Angor, but maybe doesn't help me as much. So I just see that a Cold War, that one strength event is coming already anyway. So no, now I just maybe have to be a little bit prepared for the strength events potentially. I win the uncertain borders, which is nice. And then of course this turn I want to go for the constitutional monarchy. I built one opera. I built a lab. I could have built another opera already, but I thought with those strength events coming, I want to have a way to increase my strength at the next turn, and now I have 6 science available. I can go for Rifleman, and with having Bach, in case I maybe can't afford the lab because of happy faces or some stuff, I can just upgrade it to opera later on, but for now I thought the science might even be more useful, allowing me to go for Rifleman at the next turn. My last pick this turn could potentially be a mistake, but is maybe also just a little bit of a safety pick. I could maybe just say I don't want to have any happy face solution, and I mean there is even the team sports coming at the next turn, so yeah, maybe that is not really necessary to take, especially because there's Chaplin and Marlene Dietrich in H3, so 2 leaders that could fix my happy faces, and there is vast territory and historic territory coming, who both help me with the happy faces, and I have a lot of colonization cards, so I just thought, no, so maybe I don't really need the happy faces. On the other hand, maybe it's also not too bad to have a solution available. Maybe I also don't really need those other cards. I mean, I think maybe it could be a mistake. Maybe I should just either take patriotism or frugality. Maybe even frugality. Getting a lot of population might just be very nice. I think that could potentially be a mistake. Or maybe even the cavalrymen are more important. So I don't know really why I took this organized religion. Maybe I forgot about the colonies that are coming. I mean, it's still somewhat of a safety pick. It could be that I don't win the colonies, or maybe only one of them. Maybe I don't have a nice opportunity to go for Chaplin and Marlene. But there's team sports still coming, so I thought I could then still maybe go for team sports. I think Angor very likely won't deny it. Yeah. So I don't really know why I went for the organized religion here. Probably just a safety pick, but I think the cavalryman is maybe even the more important safety pick here, so that maybe is just a mistake. Maybe there's also a reason that I don't remember. The game has finished already for a while now. Maybe I had a very specific reason why I wanted to have it, but I don't know exactly what that reason was. I can keep all of my cards in the hand with having a lot of military actions, and I even have another colonization card in hand now. So now hopefully I will be able to win those colonies, maybe even relatively cheaply. And then it's Angor's turn, H3 starts. He seats and the international negotiations is revealed. I'm the strongest and he can at least decide what he wants to pay me, and he pays me food, which is still nice. He then takes cannons, frugalities, architecture, develops the cannons, builds one, is now the strongest, develops the architecture, and but leaves me the cavalryman, which is nice. But if he takes the cavalryman, Robespierre would be discarded. Maybe he at least wants to still have the option to go for Robespierre. This turn I don't push, I'm the weakest. I thought about pushing because there is, 2 of those 3 events would just be a colony, and revealing this colony now could be quite nice, but there's also a 33% chance that the Cold War would be revealed, and I think that is just a big event for both of us, so I at the end thought I'm in a nice position, I don't need to risk anything here with seeding, so I just upgraded this lab to Opera to avoid an uprising, because Chaplin and Marlene Dietrich are both there very early, so now I basically know, also with hoping that maybe I can win one of those colonies, now with even having another colonization card, I basically maybe know that I don't need to organize religion, so this pick definitely didn't turn out to be that great. So I also don't want to fix my happy faces now using it, but then to have a nice way to avoid an uprising, I just upgrade this alchemy to opera, and then of course I lose the science production again, but it's maybe also not too bad. Maybe I hopefully will be able to win the Cold War, and then thanks to building the lab at a turn before, I can now go for the Rifleman, just going for some upgrades. I go for 3 upgrades, leaving myself with 1 warrior, so that I still have a cheap unit that I can maybe send away for the colonies potentially. Also, don't want to go for another upgrade. I mean, I don't have the resource to go for another upgrade. That is maybe the biggest reason, but if I would have the resource, I also didn't want to miss out on another draw just for that, and so I increase my population. take the cavalryman. I don't have any tactic yet, but if I draw an h3 tactic, maybe I might need it. And then with the last 3 civil actions, I just take the revolutionary idea, because I think for both of us having some additional signs could be quite nice. So I wanted to have this revolutionary idea for myself, and at the next turn I can maybe either go for Chaplain or Marlene Dietrich. I keep all of the colonization cards in 2 events. I also draw an impact of balance, a war maybe could also be interesting. Angor Seeds, the historic territory is revealed. I'm able to win it. I win it for 1 rifleman and a lot of cards. Now the cards are of course gone. Maybe I'm not able to win the vast territory, but I was still not willing to bid an army. I think I was willing to bid an army, but now that I don't have to send it, I was not willing to send an army. I just sent all of my cards away, winning this one for 1 unit. And now I have an even bigger culture lead. When we take a look at the overview, I have a very big culture lead. I have more production at the moment. I am not in any danger from the military, so I felt very confident about my position now. Angor gets at least 1 nice stuff going this turn, and that is an early communism revolution. And he has no 6 military actions, will of course not draw any cards this turn, but if he very quickly gets some nice military cards, and if this 1 card is maybe something like mobile artillery, who knows, maybe he has still a chance to pressure me a little bit with the military, and I don't have a tactic yet, so that maybe could be one dangerous way how I could maybe don't win this game. So I have to be a bit careful about this and leave myself a bit open for the military. I see the impact of balance this turn. I'm the strongest as the Cold War, so I just want to push. And I could also push the refugees, but I, without having a tactic, wasn't confident to push that. And with now having no colonization cards, I also didn't want to push the territory. At the moment, Angor has even the better balance, but I know about this impact. Maybe I can just build another lab at some point. Maybe I will go for multimedias at some point. So I was willing to see that, and even if it at the end gives a little bit more culture to Angor, it's maybe also not too bad. There is indeed a Cold War revealed, so I gain 6 additional signs, which is very nice for me. I definitely want to take the air forces here, otherwise I would miss out that maybe the other copy could be denied from me, so I definitely don't want to have that. Then I also take Marlene Dietrich here, with already having 3 operas. I think she's better than a chaplain, also helping with the military, and I also deny her from Angor, who has also taken operas, so I think that is a very clear pick. And then I just increase my population 2 times, I get out of corruption like this. I take the patriotism, I take the reserves, I just play the revolutionary idea. This turn I just don't want to commit too many things. I don't want to build any units before I know what tactic I maybe will draw. I can't build more operas. I just leave myself with a lot of resources, so in case Angor starts building up some military, I hopefully can follow and hopefully will draw a tactic at some point. And yeah, I just leave myself very flexible. I have a lot of science now. If Angor doesn't really go for military, I could maybe go for an H3 government, for maybe democracy, another opera. I could maybe go for something like multimedia, maybe even computers, grab a wonder. So I just think I'm very flexible now. And I was also very happy to draw a tactic now. I don't have the rockets or cannons, so it's not certain yet if I can go for the tactic, but I was just happy to have a tactic now, and no, with that I definitely already felt a bit safer. And also another war, so if I should get the rockets with having all of those military actions, then I might also actually have some aggressive potential, or at least I can go for a lot of strength and maybe at least force a response out of Angor so that he can't just fully concentrate on catching up in culture. Angor, for now, doesn't invest into his military, just builds an opera, builds another opera, goes up to 15 culture reduction, takes the computers and also the urban growth. Maybe he is also looking at Sid Meier with taking the computers, and that could be a nice replacement maybe. He probably wants to replace Robespierre as early as possible. There are no rockets in the row yet, and I will go for the democracy. Angor so far didn't really put a lot of effort into building some military, so I was not too afraid, but I should also not be completely careless, because he could still have the mobile artillery, and if he has not drawn a war, he can maybe still manage to build up some stuff. But no, I still was willing to take and even go for the democracy here, just going for a lot of culture reduction. Building another opera, being now 22 culture reduction, also building another lab, making sure that I have enough science to potentially go for rockets at the next turn, and also prepares me nicely for the impact of balance. And then I just take the reserves to get more resources and play the other copy of resources that I have in hand. And it's maybe a little bit greedy to go for the democracy. Maybe I could also say I just prepare myself as nicely for the military as I can, leaving myself with a lot of science so that I can go for rockets and air forces. On the other hand, now when I even get more culture reduction, I maybe have that much of a lead that even if Angor pulls off a war, one war might not be enough. So I felt like I might still be nicely enough prepared. I have enough science to go for the rockets, and without the rockets I have some issues anyway, but I still have a lot of resource. I could also just build maybe a lot of riflemen, or in 2 turns a lot of air forces. Not the most efficient way to build some strength, but could maybe still be an option. And so that was how I played Eternity, and I didn't want to go take the space flight. I mean, it could be an option, but I rather wanted to leave myself open for the Hollywood, and if I don't get the Hollywood, I can maybe go for United Nations as a replacement. I draw even 2 more wars. Vlada is giving me some instructions, and I also draw the Impact of Progress. Angor opens the vast territory, and I can't really bid that much. I was willing to build a warrior and a rifleman, but it's relatively late, so not willing to really build all of my units or something. And Angor with that is able to win it for just a knight, so that's definitely not bad for him getting this territory. Also, you can see that the rockets are on the row, so I was not very interested to see. Maybe if Angor has a war and a nice tactic, he could now maybe start building up to that and deny the rockets, at least maybe having the chance that I'm stuck on without a nice tactic. It could have been also a mistake to not keep any H2 card in hand, because he knows now for certain that I don't have, for example, the classic army. Could of course still have the shock troops, so I could still have a tactic, but maybe it was more convincing when I would have had an H2 card in hand, so that maybe was a mistake on my part. But it would also be somewhat costly for him to deny the rockets, and he basically would have to go for war the next turn already. It's not that easy for him to set himself nicely up for that and deny the rockets, so he is just building as many operas as he can. Goes for Sid Meier's now, actually also at a lot of culture production, even more than me now, 25. He is also getting a lot of culture from his wonders, Sid Meier, and all of the operas now. Plays the endowment, has the computer still in hand, so he can also increase his culture production even more, and is now maybe even starting to catch up a little bit, but I am also still sitting at 22 culture production. And with Angor not taking away the rockets and with me having all of those wars in hand, I was now thinking how I can maybe nicely go for a war. I could maybe do a relatively peaceful turn and then just try to set up for war the next turn, but I made a decision to already go for war this turn, and that is the hybrid war. The hybrid war doesn't even cause any issues with the happy faces for Angor. It could cause even more issues for me, so that I maybe have to go for Marlene, which is not too bad. But the hybrid war has one big advantage, or 2 big advantages. First of all, it costs 1 military action less, but it is not that big of a reason this turn. I could have also gone for a normal war potentially, but this is mainly just a bit of a distraction war. It has the potential to maybe also steal some culture away, depending on what tactics Angor has, but it's just a little bit of a distraction, forcing Angor to react. Now maybe if there's the Hollywood revealed, he won't find the free civil actions to take it if he also wants to defend himself, so it could distract him from taking the Hollywood. And also I will just know what tactic he has, because now to defend himself he has to reveal it, so I will know if he has the mobile artillery or not, if he has a nice H3 tactic or not. Hopefully I will know that, and then I have more information if I maybe then want to go for a war over culture the next turn, and I can go for this hybrid war and still prepare myself for a potential war over culture. And so I went for this hybrid war. And the thing about the hybrid war is that there isn't +5 culture in addition to the difference that you take, a strength difference that you take away from the opponent, so that is just a nice way to go for distraction war, because if Angor has a nice tactic, maybe even has a nice event that helps him, if he has the mobile artillery, I think there might be a chance that he wins the war, but then he won't steal that many culture away from me, and also it would cost him a lot of distraction. He can't increase his culture reduction, very likely can't take the Hollywood away, so that is just nice feature of the hybrid war. So I take the rockets, I develop the rockets, I build one, I also upgrade 1 warrior to rifleman, and I reveal the positional army tactic. I didn't really want to invest another unit into the military. I could have also maybe increased my population and then played reserves, built an additional rocket, but I didn't want to commit too much to the military yet. I just want to do this distraction war, and then at the next turn I maybe can then, with the revolutionary idea, go for an air force. If I see that Angor is vulnerable, I also take the reserves, and I take the military build-up away if I would need to spend another civil action or maybe increase my population and play a card. I can't take all of those cards, and without a military build-up, even with having that nice production, maybe Angor has some difficulties to build all of the units that he wants to build. And yeah, so I just have a lot of cards in hand. Angor is now forced to react. As said, if he has the right tactic, he certainly has a chance to win the war, but it would cause a lot of destruction. It would distract him from going for the Hollywood, and there's also the chance that he doesn't have nice tactic, and then I might even be able to steal some culture from him. And now, of course, was interested to see if Angor has nice tactic. And he probably doesn't, because at this point he just resigns, maybe even has one, but just saw that he can't, with having already some wonders, grab the Hollywood and win the war, so he would lose the war, and then maybe could take the Hollywood, but maybe he also just doesn't have a tactic. And at this point he resigns, and I mean he still is almost 50 culture behind. He has this war against him, which maybe is causing him some problems. So at this point, especially if he has no tactics, maybe he just didn't see any way how he can still win this game, and yeah, with that he just resigns. I think at this point it was already clear also that he won't have any chances to move on to the next stage, so maybe also with that in mind, maybe he then didn't have the motivation to somehow try something, which then probably won't be enough at the end. But no, I think it would be very, very difficult to catch up to me. It depends maybe on his tactic, how nicely he can react to this war. But no, he didn't really see a way how to still win this game. And no, so I of course was happy that I was then able to win this game at the end. And no, so that no, game went relatively smooth for me. I managed to get up some early iron production, then the alchemy, the code of laws, finished Machu Picchu, got irrigation, so I had a very nice economy. Going into age 2, Angor also had a nice economy, but he had only 4 civil actions, which was a little bit of an issue for him. Had also maybe too much production even. I'm not sure if the 4th iron mine was that nice at the end. On the other hand, he still managed to build some nice stuff with it, so maybe it was still nice, but it also maybe cost him some issues to do all of the stuff that he wants to do. He did maybe some surprising moves with grabbing the St. Peter's Basilica for very expensive, also the Eiffel Tower. Not certain if that was the right move. Certainly those wonders did something for him, and those are also nice in combination, nice maybe with those culture leaders. And no, I then had a difficult turn to face where I had to make a decision whether I want to go for Bach, the Republic, the strategy. I then made the decision to skip the Republic. Angor had a chance to take the constitutional monarchy. Maybe he should have done that. Maybe he should have hoped that I won't find an H3 government form very early, and then that could very limit me in building, only being able to build 2 operas. But it maybe also would have been somewhat costly for him, and I didn't have enough science to go for Conmon immediately very easily, so he didn't deny it. And no, but maybe it could have been ideal for him. And no, but at the end I then just managed to set myself up with this nice economy, and then I could just start building operas with Bach. I already had a culture lead. Angor didn't have any military actions, and then I think it was very difficult for him to find a peaceful way back into the game, but also a military way, because he had done some military actions but missed out on some draws for that. And then with being in first position, sometimes it's just that there's not that much time left. The player in second position can decide when the game will end sometimes, can maybe make sure that the game will end quicker, and then there's often not enough time left to really build up a very big war. So no, I think in H3 I just had a very strong position then. Alright, so of course I'm happy to win this game, and we can also take a quick look at the standings, how those standings are before the final game of the stage. And as you can see, after winning this game, I am now at 26 points, so I'm very happy about my position in the standings. Of course, it was already clear at the beginning of the video that I will win this group, But no, of course, I'm still happy to win some games. And if I should win the next games, I would even finish with 30 points, which would be a very nice result. So that would be a very nice being able to achieve that. No, and the next game will be the last one, a two-player game against Swin. And in this game, there will still be some important things will be decided. Because if I should defeat Swin, he is eliminated. But if he manages to defeat me, then he would continue in the lower bracket in the next stage. So there will still be a decision in the next game for the second player that advances to the next stage. And of course, I want to go up to 30 points. I want to score those points for the clicker rating. So I would very much like to win this game. But no, for Swin, it is also quite an important game. So I hope you are looking forward to this last game of the stage. And also maybe for those of you who are especially interested in two-player games. Alright, then thanks for watching. I hope it was an interesting game for you. And have a nice time and see you in the next video.